just want this layer over with already. My fiche is filled up, and I got a ton of items in the plastic bag. I tentatively etched into the soil with my smallest trowel, trying to determine where this layer ended and the new one began. It wasn't as clear-cut as I had hoped. Hendrik did say the sediments were rarely consistent like a cake. I glanced at the glossy photograph, comparing the felt lines marked on it to my progress in the actual square. I might as well pester Kyler again and get his opinion, since we're practically working on the same thing. I yanked my earbuds out and turned down the volume. When I was done, I stuck my hand in front of Kyler's face and waved. Yoo-hoo! He sighed but turned on his implant. Thank you. Yes, what is it? I ignored his weary monotone and tapped my square with my trowel to direct his gaze. I summarized my predicament. So, any idea where the new layer starts? What's the layer you're working on now? I quickly referenced my photograph. 3BMS, and I'm trying to see where 3CL starts. Shuffling out of the way, I observed Kyler intently as he rubbed the excess dirt off his trowel. With neat precision, he scooped out a bit of the exposed 3BMS soil and placed it on his hand. After wiping the trowel on his knuckles, he examined the sediments again. Which spot are you uncertain of? Right here. This time he carefully dug out a sample of the possible layer, leaving a visible mark. Once both pieces were in the palm of his hand, he placed his tool down and leaned toward me. I curiously peered down. I love... You do have a penchant for sticking things in your mouth, Kyler. Please don't tell me you're going to put that in your mouth. Ah! I thought you might like it. Okay. After a moment of bafflement, Kyler burst out laughing. He shook his head to reassure me. I did not expect his reaction, and it was a pleasant surprise. Kyler, stop making me fall in love with you. It's not your turn yet. No, it's not like that. Phew. For a second, I was worried we were going to taste test it. I guess you could. The textures would be different, but I'm not a connoisseur of dirt. It'd probably all taste the same. Grimy with an earthy aftertaste. Well, if you want to eat dirt, be my guest. But I think my method will be a little less disgusting. What a face! I haven't seen that on Kyler before. The amused smile faded, and he became serious again. Here, your hand. I obeyed, and he placed the first sample into my palm. Try rolling it into a ball. I sandwiched it and cycled my hands, feeling the dirt tumble between them. I held it up. However, there were cracks already, and I could feel it fall apart between my fingers. It sorta works. It crumbles easily, though. Very gritty. Sandy, even. Sand with a bit of loam. If it was pure sand, it wouldn't form a ball in the first place. Now for the second one. I wiped my hands on my hoodie before I accepted it and repeated the process. This time the dirt held together quite nicely, and the texture felt smoother. Does it feel like the same layer to you? Not at all. I presented the rolled-up sample and Kyler took it back. He started to flatten the ball into a thread, but it broke before it could get thin enough. It's loam. Neat, you're good at this. He wiped his hands, then hastily glanced away as he grabbed his trowel. It wasn't anything spectacular. It's a method to test the soil texture. Besides, it's already explained. What do you mean? The names for each layer. It's not a bunch of random letters and numbers. They follow a structure. They use terms to help describe the sediment, whether it's texture, color, or grain size. 3BMS. The MS stands for Marne Sableuse, which means sandy loam. 3CM is loam. Huh. It really is more straightforward than I thought. That's interesting. Are there any sediments you hate excavating? The layers that are purely rock and stone are pretty annoying. And clay sediments. Clay is extremely adhesive, and it's a pain to clean the trowel every few cuts to take the dirt off. The bottom layers of our squares contain clay. Great. I picked up my trowel and examined the two spots Kyler had notched. Anyway, thanks for showing me that trick. Sorry to keep bothering you about this. I try to ask Sherry when I can. That pose, though. It's fine. What did you call us before? Square mates? I believe I did. Why, accepting that title now? We are working side by side, and we might as well help each other out. More like helping me out. I'm the one needing it. It is your first time here. No matter how often you read about it, it's not until you excavate that you really grasp how it works. True. I felt like I understood nothing, but now I'm getting more confident with the procedures. Kyler simply nodded as he became completely absorbed in his excavation again. I inserted my earbuds and cranked up the volume. There was one other positive to working beside him. I could play my music as loud as I wanted without it distracting him. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Huh. Oh, Kyler, though, stop making me fall in love with you, man. Ursus Spelaeus followed by more Ursuspaceus. I thought Sherry was kidding when she said 99% of the bones recovered were cave bear. Aw, Shoji! At least it makes guessing which animal the bone belongs to much easier. I was in the lab sitting next to Shoji while I rummaged through the plastic bag I had selected. Yep, I can feign being an expert on this stuff. Hey, Melissa, what animal does this hoof belong to? Cave bear! Melissa, this horn? Let me think. Cave bear! Shoji laughed quietly, then glanced at his document and thought, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't decide. I want to wait, but I have a final joke. What about these fossilized fins? Cave bear, duh, didn't you know they were once aquatic? And that's why you find them everywhere. We shared a final chuckle since the joke had gotten old by then and returned to our tasks. A small gasp caught my attention and I glanced up to see flakes from a cracked canine tooth fall onto the paper towel. Shoji looked horrified and hastily placed the toothbrush down to examine the damage. It was a canine that belonged to a, what else, cave bear, with a giant fracture that ran from part of the tooth to the end of the root. It was drenched in water with some smears of dirt still left on it. Yikes, the condition's bad. It didn't appear that fragile when I washed it. He picked up the enamel pieces and sighed. Oh, did I mess up somewhere? Did you brush too forcefully? Did you brush it too roughly? No, I'm positive I wasn't careless with it. I picked up the craft stick and offered it to him. Maybe the bristles made it worse somehow. I think it's okay to leave the dirt inside the tooth if it's this broken. He reluctantly accepted the stick, not entirely convinced by my suggestion, but it was better than nothing. I admit I haven't used the stick much. Perhaps I should... Just as he said that, another chip of the tooth fell, followed by some dust. Guilt-ridden, I glanced away and scratched my cheek. That didn't work out either. Definitely not. You should probably write the identification number and move on before it's a crumbled heap in the cup. I agree. Aw, poor Shoji. Just hide that from Augustin before he freaks out on you. Stop failing, girl. Oh no, not again! Wait, seriously? How did I end up here? I skidded to a halt to get a better idea of my location. My morning jog had been extended way longer than I'd intended. Oh, I'll try this off-road, I said. I won't get lost, I said. The hoodie around my waist had gotten loose, and I retied the sleeves while I walked briskly along the street. I was definitely high up. Beside me was a steep slope, and I knew the cave was located somewhere below. It's already past 8. I should have found my way back like 20 minutes ago. I sauntered closer to the slope and peered down, wondering if I could find a shortcut. No way! That's the cave down there! It was unmistakable. There was a protruding shed half hidden in the rock, and I could see the worn path. I did not see any trail that descended down. Not without weaving through the bushes and trees, anyway. If I backtracked, I would be horribly late. What to do? What to do? So I just went for it last time, not taking into account my diabetes. Well, let's try the second option. I really didn't have a choice in the matter, did I? I took one precise step to secure my footing before launching myself, then half slipped, half ran down the slope. Narrowly dodging trees, I stumbled and ended up bursting through a thicket of bushes. This is basically exactly the same as the first option. I don't get what changes. Do all these bushes have thorns? What is this? I shielded my face as I ducked under the lower branches. As the walkway came into view, I grabbed a tree trunk to stop my momentum, huffing and puffing heavily from my detour. I emerged from the forest in a less than stellar state, all scratched with leaves stuck to me everywhere. A few curious students glanced up in surprise. When Hendrik noticed their movements, he followed their gaze and gave me a bewildered look. What happened to you? Took a wrong turn during my jog. I'm still intact, though. I hastily brushed off the leaves and plopped down in an empty chair, wanting to drown myself in the work immediately. She tapped her head repeatedly, and I combed my fingers through my hair in response, trying to fix my dishevelment. After a few moments, Joan delicately reached over and plucked a leaf from my hair. Oh, merci. We exchanged an amused smile, and we silently returned to our tasks. Although we were in the shade, I started to feel unusually warm as time went on. I squinted as I struggled to jot down the information on the bone. I wiped my forehead, then paused, surprised by how much sweat had accumulated. It can't be because of the jog. That was hours ago. The pen grazed against the bone and made an illegible squiggle when my hands voluntarily jerked. The trembling didn't stop, and I placed the items down as dread settled in. Crap. I shoved my hands into my pockets, searching for the hard candies I had on me whenever my blood sugar was low. I froze when I realized they were empty, and I frantically patted myself down. I always carried emergency rations on me. How could... Oh no. They must have fallen out of my pocket when I slid down the slope. I shot up, nearly knocking the chair over in my haste. Joan flinched, then put a hand to her mouth when she saw my state. T'es sent malade? Sick? Yeah, not feeling well. I need sugar. Confused chatter rose from the table, and Hendrik announced something to calm the students down. However, I was not in the mood to address them, and I strained to recall where I could get something sweet and fast. Wait, the fridge. With semi-shaky legs, I started walking over to the outdoor kitchen, feeling lightheaded. Something warm brushed against my arm, and Joan gently touched my shoulder. You okay? I help? Can you grab some apple juice? Pomme juice? Jus de pomme? Despite my struggles, Joan understood my request and made a beeline for the kitchen. I decided it was better for me to sit on the bench before the symptoms worsened. Oh, Joan, you're a sweetheart. I heard DeAndre and Kyler snapping at each other behind the counter. The words were in French, but even I could tell it was not friendly banter. Their constant shuffling blocked the path to the fridge, and Joan surveyed the situation. With clenched fists, she impatiently marched over. Bouge de là! Melissa est malade!
Oui, madame.
DeAndre and Kyler exchanged shocked glances, but shuffled aside to follow Joan through. In her hurry, she fumbled when she grabbed a cup, but regained her movements. After pouring the apple juice, she briskly walked toward me while doing her best to hold the cup steady. DeAndre tried to rush over, but Kyler barked out something harsh. DeAndre resentfully retreated a few steps. Joan sat next to me, making sure my fingers grasped the cup firmly. The rim quivered against my lips, but I was able to take a gulp. The tangy sweetness of apple juice filled my mouth. Amidst all this, I could hear Joan talking to Kyler and DeAndre in French, presumably explaining the situation. No one barraged me with questions. As my condition improved, Joan let out a sigh of relief, and inched a little farther away to give me more room. I licked my lips, then wiped my mouth with an arm as I mumbled behind my knuckles. Merci beaucoup. My amount of gratitude could not be expressed in just 2 words, but I hoped they could sense the heartfelt emotion behind them. You better? Much better. I admit it's been a while since I've had an episode like that.
What was that exactly? You looked as if you were going to pass out right then and there.
Don't pester her with questions. She's still recovering.
The hell, man. Who died and made you boss?
Joan waved an arm to get their attention. Calmez-vous. The tension dissolved, and the 3 looked at me inquisitively. I cradled the cup in my lap as I formulated an answer. I'm okay now. Honest. Crack a joke, ask Joan to stay, request for some time alone, retire to the indoor lab, or retreat to the tent. Joan, I'm gonna ask you to stay with me. Is it okay if you stay a little longer, Joan? DeAndre and Kyler have cooking duty, and I don't want to be alone. I patted the seat next to me, and Joan gave a little nod.
Sounds good. Take it easy, Mel.
After the others dispersed, I realized I needed something, but I wasn't sure how to relay it to Joan. Maybe it was better if I walked to the tent myself. However, Joan's concerned reaction caused me to halt, and I settled back into my seat. Joan, there's something I have to do, and it's important. Yes? Defeated, I pulled out my phone and typed my request in a French translator. I lifted the screen in front of her. Be back. She broke into a brisk walk, half jog, and I used this time to read the translation. Mon sac? That's simple. I should make more of an effort. At least in a non-crucial situation, anyway. Joan returned and handed me the bag. I flashed a grateful smile. Merci. I swung my legs around the bench and pulled out my supplies, careful of the cup next to me. It wasn't until I wiped my finger with an alcoholic swab that I noticed Joan had paid attention to my every movement. I glanced at her curiously. You want to watch? I lifted up my lancing device and her eyes widened. You don't have to. A lot of people don't like seeing blood. I turned my face, covering my eyes to demonstrate, but Joan shook her head. Can I? Sure. Wow, I was oddly touched. It made me happy when people were comfortable with my routine. Of course, it wasn't the same as dancing in front of an audience. After my finger dried, I inched the lancing device closer while determining the least painful spot. Why was I suddenly getting nervous? Calm down. Show her you're a responsible person and can take care of yourself. You got everything... The needle jammed into my finger pad instead of the side. The corners of my eyes watered. Aww. Ow. You okay? Must be hurt. No, I know what I'm doing. It's not painful at all. I've done this 1,000,000 times. I'm an expert. In my haste, I almost dropped the meter, and I fumbled to keep a grip on it. My elbow hit the cup, knocking it off the table and splashing the bench with juice. Oh, Melissa. I know what I'm doing. Joan covered her mouth, and her face turned bright red as she struggled to keep quiet. We ended up laughing at the same time. At least I successfully tested my blood sugar amidst all this. Joan was kind enough to wipe the bench while I packed my bag. When our eyes met, we both exchanged a silly grin. Wow, a wink and a sticky tongue. A sticky tongue? She stuck her tongue out, is what I'm trying to say. You okay? Yeah, I just need to rest a little. Good. You know what you're doing. Darn right. I will tell Sherry. You are sick bad. Merci, Joan. She left, and I used the opportunity to type in my glucose results on my phone. A few minutes later, I heard someone else approaching. There you are! Sorry about not finding you. I needed to get my glucose levels back to normal first. No, I understand. Do you know what caused it? I didn't see you at breakfast. I got lost. Not only did I jog longer than I intended, but I also skipped a meal. This made me sound more and more irresponsible as I went on. And I lost my emergency candy. Please don't fail me. I wouldn't deduct marks for this. Melissa, I think you should get some rest. Let's focus on getting your meal schedule back on track. right. However, I'd like to talk to you about this later. My shoulders pricked and I could only stammer in agreement. What will she bring up anyway? I hope it's not about monitoring me. Oh, Melissa. What have you done to yourself? Volunteering. Ow! I know you're capable, but what happened doesn't sit well with me. You'll be alone all weekend, and none of us are staying in Kareen. If you'd like, you can stay with Helena and me. I held in a groan. If it was only one night, I would be fine with it. However, I felt it would be an inconvenience if I roomed there for 3 nights. Moreover, I wasn't sure if I would enjoy spending time there, with the language barrier and age gap. I promise I'll monitor myself extra carefully over the weekend. I can set an alarm to wake myself up to check my glucose levels. I can leave food next to my bed. I can do a lot of things. I know you feel it hinders your independence, but you're my only student on this field trip. It's my responsibility to guarantee your safety and well-being. I want this to be a wonderful experience. Maybe I should cancel my plans and stay here, just in case. At that moment, the office chair swiveled around and Hendrik casually veered from his laptop.
If it's not a problem, I could stay. It'd be no trouble, and I'd catch up on my work, too.
Oh, would you? You're a godsend, Hendrik. Relieved, Sherry exhaled with a hand on her chest. Huh. From her tone of voice, it was like the choice was already made, without my input. She must have known him for a long time to place that much trust in him.
Of course, Melissa has the final say. Don't feel pressure to say yes because I offered. You know yourself best, and I respect your decision.
My eyes darted between Sherry and Hendrik, one obviously more distraught than the other. I know myself best, huh? Then I'm going to decline the offer. Thank you, sir, but maybe on your route. Thank you, Hendrik, but I know I'll be okay on my own. He gave an understanding nod and glanced over to gauge Sherry's reaction. Huh. If you strongly believe that, Melissa, then I'll comply. However, Hendrik does live the closest, I think. Where are you now?
Just outside of Namir. I'm 15 minutes away by truck, 10 if I rush.
You wouldn't mind being an emergency contact, would you? Hendrik exchanged a knowing glance with me, and I gave him a strained smile. We silently agreed her concerns were a tad overbearing.
I'll jot my cell number down right now.
He swiveled in his seat as he turned to his desk once again to grab a pen. We heard a light rap on the doorframe. Augustin walked through the entrance, announcing that he had locked everything up save the back and front door.
All done. Now, has the discussion been settled?
Augustin had been in the same room briefly when Sherry first addressed me. Therefore, he had the gist of the situation.
It has. The routine will stay the same, and Melissa will remain here over the weekend.
I'll be fine. I already talked it over, and Hendrik will be an emergency contact since he lives close by.
Then we will see you Monday, Melissa. Don't push yourself too hard.
A tap on the table drew my attention, and I saw slanted writing on paper. Hendrik closed his laptop and pulled the plug.
I'll leave my number here.
Awesome, thanks. Once their belongings were sorted, the trio filed out, and I followed to give them a proper goodbye. After they left, I closed the front door and retreated back into the laboratory, wondering what to do for the rest of the evening. Ah, the pajamas! So cute. Oh geez, what was that? The stairs creaked as if someone had stepped on the bottom step. Slowly the creaks got closer and slower and then stopped. I rolled over and peered at the exit, half expecting someone to be standing there. Wind rattled through the cracks in the roof, creating a high-pitched whistle. I pulled the sleeping bag over me, trying not to whimper. I cranked up my 3DP and inserted the earbuds, hoping to forget the scary sounds. Luckily, the Wi-Fi was still on, and I connected the handheld. A few of my friends were online, playing various games, including an unfamiliar avatar. Oh yeah, we exchanged friend codes recently. Wait, Shoji's still awake? Using the touchscreen, I navigated to the messaging system that came with the handheld and decided to contact him. It was clunky without a keyboard, but I needed someone to talk to more than playing a game. How to greet him. I did this last time. How about we scream for help? Shoji, help me!
What? Are you hurt?
No, I'm fine. There was a long pause before he responded.
But don't scare me like that. Nearly had a panic attack.
Sorry, didn't mean to give you the wrong idea. I was referring to the scary sounds here. I swear they're ghosts. Can you keep talking to me until I fall asleep, please?
Sure. Do you have access to your laptop? It'll be easier to talk that way. The touch screen on these things are painfully slow.
Yeah, what messengers do you use? I'm my Sophronia Mel on WeChat Together.
Perfect. I'll add you so you know who I am in a minute. See you then.
I shut my handheld, then poked my head out of the sleeping bag. Yanking my earbuds out, I slipped out from the covers. Grabbing my laptop, I set it on the floor beside my air mattress, making sure the cord wasn't strained against the outlet. Resting on my stomach, I impatiently logged in, and was relieved to find a notification. Shoji, not Shota, has added you. Yay! Thanks, this will help me forget all the horror movie noises.
Happy to help. So, you stay at the cave site alone?
Yeah, Sherry's at her friend's place. A fellow student was supposed to come, but family emergency and stuff. What's with the name? People mistake you a lot?
Yes, and it's annoying. What about yours? What's a Sophronia?
It's based on my favorite swing song. I love it. When I hear it, I want to rock around the clock and jump, jive, and wail and all that jazz. You can say, I dig swing. Ha ha ha. Ba-dum-tsh.
We've been hanging around Hendrik for too long. Are you feeling less scared now? Is there anything else I could do?
Let's see. I would do this, but we'll wait. We'll hold off on that. Still terrified. I need cute animal videos. Do you know of any? I love bunnies. Or maybe some curling cats.
I'll see what I can do. Probably have something in my vision history.
For the rest of the night, Shodi provided me with links to various videos to keep my mind focused on something light and fluffy. Since I was preoccupied watching, our conversations were non-existent, save for repetitive commentary. Before I knew it, I gave him a hasty goodbye and passed out, my ears no longer paying attention to the creaks and howls echoing through the museum. It was a nice, dreamless sleep. Thanks, Shoji. I failed at emailing again. Just dance, girl. Stop falling on your butt, girl. I need to dance. Goodness gracious me. It doesn't really matter. Cave lab stuff. Internet's probably a good idea. Volunteering. You know, we can probably just do the same thing. Although, let's check our Oh my, we have no hearts with anybody. It's just girls, girls, girls. Come on, Kyler. You just don't like me at all, even when I make you laugh. You aloof square, you. A sweet girl currently learning English. Oops. There we go. Start. Do it, girl. You can do it. These clay sediments are a pain. I grumbled inwardly as I wiped the sticky dirt off yet again. I was on my knees trying to finish the last 25 centimeters. I did uncover tiny bones, but rationalized they weren't worth sketching in the grid. There was the sound of scraping metal, and I turned to see Hendrik climbing down the ladder behind me. What a rare sight! You're hardly in the cave, Hendrik.
I know. As a geologist, you'd think it'd be the opposite, but here I am now.
He surveyed my square, and I started to get self-conscious, wondering if I was doing something wrong.
Hope you don't mind the tight squeeze.
He knelt down next to me, and I hastily moved to my haunches, offering him my knee pad. He shook his head.
Don't worry about it. I'll just be here for a few minutes. I wanted to observe your digging techniques.
Oh. After I made myself comfortable again, I leaned forward to start excavating. He watched, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. How am I doing?
Is your wrist well? Any pains from repetition?
Nope, Sherry gave me some pointers to avoid it.
Great. Mind if I borrow your trowel for a second?
Sure. I cleaned it, handed it over, and he grasped it nimbly.
I've noticed your wrist is slightly angled, and you're simply scraping or trailing your trowel through the dirt. It's painfully slow.
Isn't archaeology supposed to be painfully slow? He held the trowel so it was parallel to the dirt.
It is, but even you should be able to dig through a few centimeters a day. Align your trowel like so. Then make a nice downward flick with the wrist.
The blade of the tool effortlessly sliced through the clay, much cleaner than before.
Don't be afraid to make large cuts. This helps you avoid blurring the sediment lines, as it's neater and easier to distinguish.
Let's panic. It was a strange feeling, like he'd encroached on my role. This was my square, and at this point I felt I understood it better than anyone. I struggled to keep my face composed. My fingers trembled as I impatiently waited for him to return my trowel. I see. You're pretty good at this. Can I resume my work now?
Oh, sure. Someone's eager.
Thanks for the tip, Hendrik.
Geen probleem. If you need me again, I'll be happy to assist. Just don't start taking me for granted.
Okay, that was cheesy, even for you.
Hey, that pun is a classic.
Good grief. He returned the tool to me and stood up. Glancing in Kyler's direction, Hendrik rubbed the back of his head, mulling over how to approach him. Finally, he tapped Kyler on the shoulder. Kyler begrudgingly stared at him before activating his implant.
We.
Kyler's voice struggled to keep an even tone, while Hendrik's voice had a shaky cheerfulness to it.
I was wondering if you needed any help or had any questions.
I'm fine. I don't need your help. Kyler returned to his square, ignoring Hendrik, who sighed ruefully. Oh. It's not the best time to ask, even if my curiosity is killing me. I returned to my work while Hendrik climbed up the ladder, most likely to make his rounds with the other students. Staring at my trowel, I recalled Hendrik's movements and attempted to mimic them to the best of my ability. Sliced cleanly, huh? I gazed at the cuts that Hendrik had made and started to replace them with my own digging.
You seemed shocked when he demonstrated.
Was it that noticeable?
To me. Did he do something to upset you?
I'm uncomfortable with how observant Kyler is in this time around. Like, you were so standoffish the first time, and now you're like, hey girl, I couldn't help but notice that you weren't paying attention, or that you seemed nervous. I'll open up to you on your route if you'll just wait a second, precious baby. I shook my head fervently. Although I did get anxious watching Hendrik dig in my square, I couldn't deny he was accomplished. Of course not. I was admiring his expertise. Before, I wondered if he ever left his laptop or the lab. But he's at home in the cave, too. He does know what he's doing.
I guess so.
I stood up and stretched. It was a good time to take a small break and jot down some notes in my journal. I'm gonna get some fresh air. You know, Kyler, you're gonna get hypoxia if you don't go outside every now and then.
I'll be fine.
Okay, later. Don't kill me.